Joining us now is this gentleman, Miguel Guerrero. He is the general manager for the city of San Bernardino's Municipal Water Department. I've asked him to join us today because I'd like him to tell you, the community, in his own words, what he and his team do within the city of San Bernardino's water department and everything A to Z, because it's easy for us as consumers to just turn on a faucet or to flush a toilet or wash our dishes and everything. But there's a lot of work that goes into bringing that water to the community and treating it. So, Miguel, welcome to Life in SoCal. Thank you so much for taking time out. He's a very busy man, and I was appreciative that he took time out of his schedule today to talk to us about everything that they do here within the department. So if you could just go ahead and take us on that journey, we'd sure appreciate that.
Thank you, John. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to do that. I could start just by a little bit of background on myself. I've been with the department since 2011.
Okay.
Didn't start as a general manager. I was actually in engineering and actually now the general manager for almost a year. Anniversary's coming up later this month. So
congratulations.
It's a challenging position, but it's rewarding and it's something that I have a passion for. So I don't want to say it's easy, but it's something I love to do. The water department itself, there's quite a lot of information, a lot of misunderstanding on the water department, what the water department does, how the water department is connected to the city. So maybe I can start by talking about that a little bit. The water department is a department of the city. We are a part of the city. And then believe it or not, that's one of the things that always gets misunderstood. Is the water department separate? Are they part of the city? 100% department of the city.
Okay.
The difference, the unique part about the water department is that the water department has a water board that is appointed by the mayor and council. A water board that consists of 5 commissioners. And actually that was established over a century ago.
Okay.
1905.
Wow.
When the water department, the municipal water department was established by the city for different reasons. A big reason is that they wanted to focus on water, and they wanted a dedicated board focused on water.
Okay.
And they wanted to sort of separate it just enough so that they can focus on that.
Okay.
And that's proof to have worked out really well.
Great.
Today the water department is an exceptional organization, exceptional department of the city, and it's grown quite a bit. So the water department, although it just has the name water in it, it's not just about water. It's also about wastewater.
Wastewater treatment.
That's right. So a big part of what we do is wastewater treatment. So we have really broken up into 3 different sections, 3 different utilities. And a lot of you will see that in your bill because you have 3 different specific items for each one of these utilities.
Okay.
I'll start with the first, the water side, the clean water side, the potable water side. That serves most of the city. Actually, part of our city is served by a neighboring agency in East Valley, but we also serve county pockets.
Okay.
And the way we serve on the water utility side is we have 100% sourced from the groundwater basin, which I can get into a little bit later. But 100%, 50 wells scattered across the city that are pumping water from the groundwater that serve the customer. So, and then we have the wastewater side. 2 parts to that.
Okay.
The latest addition to the water department actually happened a couple of years ago when the sewer collection system, which is includes all the pipelines out in the street, almost 500 miles of sewer pipelines and many thousands of manholes that collect all that wastewater from the city and bring it to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment. That was transferred over from Public Works a couple of years ago. Part of the charter change. So it's a big difference. A big deal for the water department because it's essentially a whole another utility that the water department is managing.
Okay.
And then you have the last part, which is wastewater treatment. And the wastewater treatment part of it not only serves the city. We have what could be considered sort of a regional plant because we serve the city. We also serve East Valley Water District, who collects sewer water and conveys it over to this wastewater treatment plant owned and operated by the city. And then the third city, Loma Linda. Loma Linda also sends their wastewater over to the city's wastewater plant. So we treat it at one plant and then to a certain level, and then we convey that to another plant that's actually located in the city of Colton. I know, I'm getting way into it, but it's important to understand what we do at the water department. So we treat to a certain standard in the city. We convey that over to the city of Colton. And why the city of Colton? Because we have a partnership with the city of Colton. On the way to that treatment plant in the city of Colton, we actually pick up and collect wastewater from Colton's plant. And this plant that's in the city of Colton, which is the rapid infiltration, or RICS plant, as we call it, further treats the water. Our water, now you have our water, you have East Valley's water, you have Loma Linda wastewater.
That's a lot.
You have, and then you have Colton's wastewater, all being treated to a high standard at this RICS plant. And once it's treated at this RICS plant, it's discharged into the river, into the Santa Ana River, which is adjacent to the plant. So that's really how the water department is broken up.
It's broken up.
And we have over 250 employees here at the water department, all serving the different areas.
Now, when you said the various cities and everything that you're servicing and partnering with, how long has this been going on? How many years has this partnership been going on with Loma Linda or Colton? Has it been since the beginning, or has it just built up over time?
It's built up over time.
Okay.
So this plant itself, the wastewater treatment side, was built on the plant we operate now was built in the 50s.
Okay.
And then a decade or so after that, we got into an agreement with Loma Linda and East Valley. So then this plant that's in the city of San Bernardino started treating Loma Linda and also East Valley water. They used to be called East San Bernardino County water.
Oh.
So that's been going on for quite a while. And now the plant down in Colton, the RICS plant, that was actually built in the 90s. So that partnership began in the 90s.
Okay. So you said, going back to, well, actually, I did want to talk to you about a couple of things for the future. So if you want to touch on that briefly, things change and evolve over time.
Of course.
And San Bernardino is not a city that's complacent, but they're very thoughtful in how they do what they do. It has to make sense. And this is my perspective, okay, just from my view. So with that said, when you look down the road as far as water treatment, what are some of the things, some of the improvements, and some of the going up to the 21st century ideas are out there? Because, and I mention this because this gentleman actually came out to speak to our neighborhood association council in the city of San Bernardino, and he did a very thoughtful presentation, and that was the clincher for me. I said I have to have him on the show because I want the residents of our city and the people that they serve to see what's ahead, what's for the days ahead. So do you want to speak to some of that?
Absolutely. And I can, we have the wastewater side, we have the clean water side, and today they're more related and interconnected than they ever have been.
Okay.
We serve water to the tap. Folks use the water, they flush the toilets, it goes down the drains, and it works its way over the wastewater plant, over to the wastewater plant.
Right.
That water's treated and it's sent down the river. It makes sense, especially today, and then we're not the only ones doing this. Recycled water is a huge thing. We're trying to recover some of that water today.
Okay.
We're trying to recover that precious resource and keep it here in the city's groundwater basin.
Can you speak to that process briefly? Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting for the people to know what's involved in that.
So our recycled water project, the city's recycled water project, is called the Clean Water Factory.
Oh, okay.
And we've been working on it for the better part of a decade now.
Okay.
But we're getting there. We're getting close.
Okay.
And what the project is going to accomplish, it's just going to maintain and keep some of that water that we're sending down the river today, keep it here, local.
Nice.
And use in a couple ways.
Okay.
We'll use as much as we can for irrigation.
Okay.
So in lieu of the water that we pump out of this groundwater basin, we'll now be able to use this recycled water to irrigate.
Oh,
which will relieve some stress on the basin.
Yes.
And it's a drought tolerant supply. But that wastewater supply is always going to be there. And then what we also plan on doing is also utilizing this recycled water to recharge the basin, to replenish the basin.
Wow.
And this is done in Orange County. Our neighbor, East Valley Water District, with their new plant, they're planning on doing this as well. So we treat the water to a high quality, and we put it back into the ground. And we put it back into the ground through basins, we put it back into the ground through the river, and it works its way back into the ground. And I mentioned our 50 groundwater wells earlier. Those groundwater wells will eventually see some of that water.
Oh,
so in the end, what we'll be doing is we'll be keeping here in the basin, not only the water department, but also our partners like East Valley Water District, millions of gallons, 10 plus millions of gallons within the next 5 years will stay in the basin, whereas right now they're going straight into the river, down towards Prado, working its way down towards the ocean through Orange County.
And all of that water is going to finally be kept right here. It's just going to come right back in.
Absolutely.
Through that process.
Absolutely. And we have some challenges, of course, like with any project. Our water that we have down at Rick's in Colton that we're discharging into the river has created some habitat, some sensitive habitat. So we have to be mindful of that.
Oh, okay.
So while right now we're discharging 30 million gallons into the river, we cannot, for those reasons, because of the mitigation and the environmental side, the habitat that we've supported, we cannot just take those 30 million gallons away. So we're trying to do as much as we can, and that number right now looks to be about 10 million gallons. So
wow, that's significant.
It is.
Now, when you talk about the basin, can we talk a little bit, because I want you to educate me on this topic.
Yeah.
Ever since I've come here, I've heard of the Bunker Hill Basin.
Yes.
Can you touch a little bit on that? What is it? Where is it? Because I can tell you, and you're going to dispel some myths about this. Okay, years ago, the consensus, well, as I was growing up in a neighboring city in Riverside, we would read in the paper that there's so much water underneath San Bernardino on the Bunker Hill Basin that when the earthquake hits, Hospitality Lane's just going to sink because there's so much water underneath the city. And then as time goes by, people will say, actually no, Shollenberger, the Bunker Hill Basin has gone down significantly because of drought and etc. So do you want to, I think it's important to speak to that, to the community, so they understand what's involved in that whole process.
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah. So I could start by first describing the basin itself. I mean, as you can imagine, the basin is this underground bowl. Think of it as a bowl.
Okay.
And it's not a pool necessarily underground. It's groundwater. Groundwater is water that's seeped into the ground. So you can't imagine it as a giant pool, a void, because it's not. It's water that's within the soil.
Okay.
So you have this bowl, and the Bunker Hill Basin itself, its boundaries, if I can describe them, are the San Bernardino Mountains, say the 215. So on the west you have the 215, on the north you have the San Bernardino Mountains, and then you have Yucaipa on the east, and on the south you have City of Loma Linda, and the hill range there. That is the Bunker Hill Basin, and that is the basin that the city relies 100% on for its water supply.
Okay, and now you're saying this comes from like snowpacks and rain and all the natural ways that we would.
That's right. Today,
the
number one way this bowl gets filled and replenished is through natural runoff, snow and rain. But there are other ways. We also, and not only us. And let me first start by saying we're not the only ones that use this basin.
Okay.
We have our partners, and I call them partners because we all work together to make sure we take care of this basin.
Right.
You've got Redlands, you've got East Valley Water District, the City of Riverside, which I can talk about how that works.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
The City of Riverside, Loma Linda, and us and others, all that take water from this basin and all that work together to make sure that we take care of this basin.
Okay, so that, as far as ownership specifically, it wouldn't be considered the San Bernardino City has the exclusive rights. It would be all of these partners partnering together that have rights to it.
And it goes back to the 60s when the 1969 judgment was put in place. And it was an agreement between all the basin stakeholders, including Riverside. Actually, it even included downstream folks like Orange County.
Okay.
Because they have a bit of a stake in what we do up here. Because this is the start of it all. This is the start of the Santa Ana River watershed.
Right.
What we do up here affects Orange County. Because if we are careless and pump to excess, that affects what's making its way and working its way down to Orange County. So I don't want to get too much into the judgment because that's a whole nother series, another show. But the judgment did is it largely defined water rights in this Bunker Hill Basin.
Okay.
And it really looked at two different entities or two different parties. You looked at the Riverside County interest and the San Bernardino County interest.
Okay.
So on the San Bernardino side, you have the city, you have Redlands, you have East Valley, Loma Linda, pretty much anyone you can think of that sits atop of this basin on the San Bernardino County side. On the Riverside side, the biggest player, the city of Riverside. And you have others like Riverside Highland, actually the UC Regents, also part of that side.
Wow.
And the 69 judgment set a safe yield, a certain amount of water that we should be taking, a threshold of water that we should be taking from the basin. And that was set about around 200,000 acre feet per year.
Oh.
And when I talk in acre feet, I would tell you just ballpark figures. About 200 acre feet amounts to say about I don't want to give you any wrong numbers here, but
No.
say about 75 billion gallons of water.
Wow.
Round figures. So that's how much water is the safe yield. That's how much water that judgment looked to sort of set the threshold on how much water we can take out.
Okay.
And that is even divided up further. So you got the San
Among the
Bernardino
other cities.
So San Bernardino interests get a certain amount, and they're not necessarily capped in the amount of water. On the San Bernardino interest side,
Okay.
we take out as much as we need to serve our customers within these boundaries. On the Riverside side, they have a hard cap. They have a certain amount of water that they can take out. I always get asked the question, why is the city of Riverside taking water from our basin?
See, I'm glad this topic came up because I needed this to be talked about for the background story.
Historically, with the water rights here in the basin, Riverside has always had access to it. Has always pulled the water from the basin. There was a time when the city of San Bernardino was actually restricted and limited in the amount of water, believe it or not, that we could take out of this basin. But
Wow.
the judgment, the 69 judgment, settled a whole lot of that and allowed us, the city, to take out as much as we need to serve our customers.
I just love that whole situation. It made it even for everyone.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, that's a lot of people and a lot of cities and a lot of surrounding cities that services. And it's let's face it, water is more precious than anything else, really. It's
Right.
it's one of the most precious resources. And by allotting this way, everybody is served.
Right.
And I like that. So it's worked out. Well, apparently it's worked out very well.
It's worked out well, but it's not perfect. I will
Okay.
say that. But I have ran into challenges.
Okay.
There was a time, and we're not the situation now. You talked about the misunderstanding that during an earthquake, this thing could all sink because of high groundwater level. We've had history of high groundwater level. Actually, the site we're at here today, which is down near the interchange, the 215 and the 10 interchange, is considered the pressure zone, an area of danger for liquefaction with high groundwater level. And not the case today because of the drought, and I can get into that a little more, but we have had times where we had high groundwater level. But I don't foresee that happening very much anymore because demand has gone up over time.
Yes, and the population is growing.
Population's
A lot
growing.
of people are moving out here, so a lot more customers are,
Right.
are going to be using up a lot of the water, and that does play a role because as our population grows, the demand for water does too, and they're using it. So
And we have severe drought periods to contend
Yes.
with. We just came out of one that did significant damage to the health of this basin. We are seeing, and there still are, even with recent rains, we are at or near historic lows
Wow.
in groundwater levels here in the basin. The rain has helped, but what has also helped is conservation. And what
Yes.
will help is recycled water.
Recycled water.
And then there's one other piece to it that also helps significantly is State Water Project water. And the
Oh.
State Water Project is the conveyance system that brings water from Northern California to Southern California.
I'm glad you're touching on that because I wanted to see if there was other resources.
It's a significant resource for the basin.
Okay.
And that really all starts with our wholesaler, our state water contractor, which is the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District.
Okay.
And we often get mixed up and confused with them as well. But they're a district, a wholesaler, and we're a department of the city.
Okay.
But what their job is to pay for what is essentially the mortgage on this conveyance system. But they're also in charge of maintaining and operating turnouts that are located along the foothills, the San Bernardino foothills, where they put water into the basin through recharge basins,
Okay.
mostly flood control district basins. So they'll release as much water as is allocated to them in a given year
Okay.
at these different locations, the biggest one being Waterman Basin.
Oh.
So Waterman Basin can take a significant amount of water. And most of the time, because we don't get a whole lot of rain, especially like a time now, Valley District can utilize that. They can open up that pipeline and put in as much water as they can.
Okay.
And that helps replenish the basin. And it's done all along the foothills. It's not just done there. It's also done behind the university at Sweetwater. It's done to the east over near the dam by the Conservation District and Valley District.
Gosh, there is so many moving parts.
Right.
And this is the reason I wanted to have you on, is so you could speak to these various entities, because so many other sources are involved in helping everybody get water here. And when we talk about the snowpack up north, a couple of years back, I think it was, they said the publicity went out that, okay, we should be okay now, so everybody just, then we're just going to take water restriction off of our plate and we're just going to do whatever we want to do. Speak to why we really need to continue doing what we've been doing as a city by following those guidelines.
Yes. So this recent drought period taught us a lot. It brought levels down in the basin down to at or near historic lows, like I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And this is at a time when we're actually conserving. We're actually using a significant amount of water less than what we've used in the past. Okay. And despite that, this drought put us in this position. And it didn't happen over a decade. It happened over a matter of years. Mm-hmm. And it really put a scare into everyone, put a scare into the state.
Yes.
So the state starting in around 2014-15, they went into an emergency state, drought emergency state.
I remember, yes.
Had regulations, assigned conservation standards to water suppliers across the state, all to achieve a 25% reduction in water use across the state. That was back in 2015. We were assigned at that time 28%. So I did
recall that.
We had to decrease our consumption by 28% compared to 2013. And some ask why 2013, because that was really before a lot of these regulations went into play. That's before they really pushed on conservation. So it's a good baseline for us that we actually still use today.
Okay.
So 2015 that happened. We did really well. The city did an incredible job. The community, the residents really stepped up. We met our conservation standards, and we still continue to meet that today.
Nice, because they did meet it early and exceeded the goal.
Absolutely.
And the 28 threshold.
28%, and then today we're not at 28%. We require 15% because we need to maintain the level of conservation. And the latest 12-month average shows that we're above 20%, which is incredible.
Wow.
So we've been doing a great job conservation-wise overall, and it's major kudos to our residents because they've really stepped up.
That's great.
And our goal really, and not only our goal, but the goal of water suppliers across the state is to instill these water efficient use practices. Conservation has to be a way of life, and California is sending that message. Then sending that message through their initiative, which is titled "Making Conservation a California Way of Life." It's sent the roadmap by the state for permanent, long-term solutions to water use and conservation in the state, and we have to continue on that track. We have to get to a point where conservation just comes naturally, whether it be with use inside the home or outside of your home through landscape design or landscape renovations to use less water.
Let's talk about a couple of the ways that, like for example, purifying that recycled water, using UV lighting or whatever, that kind of a thing. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, the recycled water, the process itself, the treatment process itself involves. Well, let me first start by saying the wastewater treatment involves a primary, secondary, and typically a tertiary process.
Okay.
The primary process is what I call a physical process. You take out physically, either by screens or through gravity, you take out the big stuff.
Okay.
And without getting into the gross details of what that big
right.
stuff is. And then the secondary process is a more complicated process. It's a biological process.
Okay.
Where it involves bugs, essentially microbes,
okay.
that eat up the matter, that decompose the matter, that break down the matter.
Okay.
And then that also has another physical process where this matter that's being eaten up is actually settling and being removed.
Oh.
And then tertiary process is more of a filtration process. And for us, that process involves a natural filtration process at a RIGS plant in Colton, where the ground serves as a filter. So the water that leaves the wastewater plant that is in the city of San Bernardino is filtered naturally in basins at the Colton RIGS plant.
Oh.
So it seeps in, we pump it out, we use the natural ground as a filter, and that serves as our tertiary process that allows us to then discharge it into the river. At that point, it's at a great quality. And what we're doing with our recycled water project, with our clean water factory, is that we're taking that tertiary process that we have now in Colton, we're moving that tertiary process to the city of San Bernardino.
Wow.
So that we can do that process here in the city and utilize that recycled water here in the city.
And that's an ongoing project that your team is working on, is focusing in on that recycling progress for the very near future.
Absolutely. We're currently under design for the project.
Okay.
Design is scheduled to be finished later this year, and we're hoping to commence construction in 2020.
2020. And now, where will that process, right here? Will that be right here on site? Right
here at the city of San Bernardino, at the city's the city's wastewater plant, which is located down near the hospitality area. So that's where this recycled water process will be located.
Okay. See, gosh, you have such so many avenues as general manager, so many things going on that you're responsible for. You have a very big responsibility on your shoulders, Miguel. I think you know that, but just speaking with you and meeting you and talking to you, you love what you do.
Absolutely.
You really do. You enjoy it, and you love serving the city of San Bernardino and the surrounding communities, because you're passionate about quality water and proper treatment. And I can see you doing this for your whole lifetime, because it's something that's important to you, because you have small children.
Yes.
And you want your children, everybody else's children, and everybody in the community to have what you want your family to have. You want everybody to have this quality. And I can tell you, when I first moved here, this was the test for me. My mother visited my home in San Bernardino. I've been here 11 years. I love this city. It's been wonderful to me. So many good things happen in the city with community-based projects that people get involved in, our neighborhood associations and stuff. It's just been great for me. My mom put a cup up to the tap at my house, and I didn't think she would do it, because she only likes to drink bottled water, etc. She ran that tap, and she got that glass of water out of there, and she says, "This is good." And I'm telling you, she would not drink tap water at all. But she loves to, when she visits me, she's in her 80s, she loves that tap water. She said, "This is good. It's very good quality water that we have here." And your team is making that possible, bringing that quality, good, clean drinking water. So you have a lot on your plate, but you and your team, you're really getting the job done. I wanted to say thank you so much.
Anytime. For
coming and talking to the community and educating us on some of the things that are going on now, and some of the things that are just around the corner. But it's all necessary steps for us to continue as a city to have the quality that your team is bringing to us. So thank you so much for your service to our city of San Bernardino, for the work that you and your team are doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.